For sure, welcome back to the land of the living and to the Pulse. I was thinking about you earlier. What have you been up to since Monday?
Well, I've been making a lot of food. I had started I was glad to have the event over with so I could continue on with a lot of the other things that I put aside. I got some freeze-dried ice cream I got to pack. I picked probably about, what would you say, 20 pounds of pepper?
Yeah.
About 20 pounds of pepper out of my garden yesterday. We made morel stuffed peppers. That was delicious. So we had that last night. I'm here with Phil. Phil got in a car accident, so now he doesn't have a car.
Oh,
and that's how he was making his money, through DoorDash currently.
So yeah, I'm licking my wounds.
sorry.
I'm all right. The other people are all right, but my car's probably fucked.
Yeah, that sucks, dude.
And
What
I
happened
had just
yesterday?
It happened yesterday, and I had just turned my insurance back on, but I went with minimal, which was stupid. So now I got to pay for a tow and a bunch of other shit. So strikes and gutter balls.
Are you on a famously bad losing streak, or is it just random, just chaos?
I'm on a famously bad losing streak lately.
Yeah, it's famous. I mean, I don't know if I've seen a worse losing streak this recent in my life.
Wow.
In a while. But
well, okay. Let's start at the beginning. Let's get both your all's impressions of the how the conference went. Start with the mad dash. When last we left you, we were in a mad dash to get to the event on time. All right, now what happened? What'd you see? What'd you do?
The event was incredible. I was not expecting to cry, and nor was I trying to evoke tears in the crowd. But apparently, I've had 3 people tell me that they cried as well, which is very powerful, because when I compose songs and when I work on my art, a lot of the time, I don't cry ahead of time before I release it. I don't feel like it's ready. I don't feel like it's powerful enough. Whereas with this presentation, I just came to the realization of all this stuff, and a lot of my family and friends were there, and everybody's always been trying to figure out what's wrong with me. I am Uncle Weirdo. I am the weirdo. I am the strange Dr. Strange. I am I am the idiot savant, borderline spectrum into and out of Asperger's, and all of a sudden I think we're all realizing it could have been from the car accident, and also the vision that came to me, which is the Doherty set. So it could be a combination of both. So it went good. My speech, overall, everybody, all I heard was great feedback from everyone's speeches. So everyone liked it from what I saw. Numbers were a little low, but it's a Sunday. Numbers are usually low for that place on a Sunday, even if they got huge DJs lined up. So yeah.
All right. I've created the beginnings of the research pages for these speakers. I need to get more details from you, and but I've already begun that process. And a lot of people have been asking me already about the Kentucky conference and all those kinds of things. So there's still interest going, and you have more shows going now tonight on the Pulse. We're going to be covering my new paper, and then we'll probably do a little bit of Arthur. But if you get time to pop by and advertise the videos, that would be great. You could come on as a guest tonight.
I'd love to. And Ramon, I'd love to suggest an episode that we do. And I want you to do a little study, a little research first. I've told you a couple times now, but this is the future. This is where we're already at. A lot of this information comes from a TED Talk this woman that was talking about um, collaborative consumption is what it was called, and
Okay.
this is what Airbnb is. This is what rideshare is. This is what the bikes, sharing bikes. Sharing your house with strangers. This could have never happened. Probably could have never happened before without technology. And the future of currency is reputation. So it's all based on your reputation, your social credit score, basically.
That's an
So
interesting. Yeah, post the TED Talk. I'll look into it. That would be a good episode for us to do when we do a MIMS episode on dual layer economics. That would fit in perfect because you start talking about access. You start talking about what are the mediums of exchange of value, which briefly came up in the last show that we just finished. But we were talking gold versus dollars, and that's not really exactly. So I think that'd be an interesting discussion. All right, now back to the conference. So we had all the presentations, and then afterwards there was the after party. You had 3 bands. I think Phil played, and you had a couple of other bands play that I heard.
Yep.
And people danced, and then you sold some art. How much art did you sell?
Between the art that I sold and tickets and everything and ice cream, I broke even. So had I not sold art and ice cream and other things,
right,
it would have been, quite a bit less. So I sold a lot of hoodies, t-shirts, prints, small prints, large prints, and a good amount of freeze-dried ice cream. Everyone loves that. So,
but in some of the displays you wanted to buy next time, you might need more demos next time. But the displays like your plasma orbs and your Tesla guns, you'll be able to reuse those. So you're saying you covered those costs, right?
No, that's excess. I didn't add anything excess. I poured a shit ton of money into this. All the prints that I put up, 28.
Okay.
I think I printed 2 of each, and those aren't cheap. So I mean, as far as breaking even, like the costs of the event, the venue, the sound guy,
Okay.
the bartenders.
But you'll be able to look at that. Just Sean joined.
Yeah.
You'll be able to sell those prints at the next events. You'll be able to vend as well at the EU event. And now I have good news. Aaron Harden is in control of a former Sears store, like those like miniature Kmart's that the Sears had for a little bit. He has a 4-year free lease on a Sears building. We'll be able to throw an event and party and whatever else we want in there. He is the one in outright control of that. So awesome. That's a potential location for us to host a large event. Of course, and that begs the question of where do we get the stage and the sound systems and all that. That's the one problem with that idea. So there's a lot of work to do for that conference, but at least we have some positivity already heading into it. Now, I want to encourage you also to make DVDs of this conference. I want you to add the audio over top of the live presentations and then combine the online ones and make some really sweet ass DVDs, maybe a dual DVD set.
Well, I'll
buy one. I promise you, I will buy one.
Memory sticks too.
Yeah,
maybe. How much do DVD burners cost? I mean, you probably already have a burner, but how much do actual DVDs? They've got to be what, like $1 at most. And if you sell them for $60, $80, I know I'd buy one, and I'm already on the daggone thing.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't release the people in person, because I have a lot of interest in people already saying, I want to, where can I see it? Where can I see it?
I think you should consider, combining the best online talks with the live present talks for at least a single DVD, and then maybe put out a bonus DVD like people could get for cheap, like $20, and add to their box set. And if you package it really nicely, You could sell it. You could sell it yourself, or you could talk to, I don't know, Stick on Stone, or somebody.
It's also it's also good advertisement, just because then you all the time on our shows and stuff, we could say we also have the box set of the 2022 EM conference, and
right.
we have DVDs.
It's something I'd like to have on my shelf. It was certainly a journey. It was an interesting thing to fulfill the role, the multiple roles that we had to fulfill in order to get this thing to go off. And it got stronger as the night went on. The second intermission, people were buying more, I noticed.
Yep. Well, the second intermission
because you and I spoke, and then we took a second intermission.
The second intermission was dinner time.
Yeah, people were hungry. They were spending money. We lost a couple audience members, but most of them stayed. I noticed for my second speech and your second speech that we actually had still a good dozen people in the audience.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of the people. There was a steady, I'd say, 30 plus people there through the event, or 40.
Yeah, then they liked Mike's presentation. He stayed on point. He didn't go flat earth. He stuck to his main stuff. He minimalized the crazy stuff, and he was visually compelling. And I was very impressed. And I think he'd be worth having back for a similar kind of point making. I don't know how to make his research page, but I'm interested to help him. I've created a electrogeology page for him. So I was very pleased with that. Robert Burke had great slides. Arturo was the surprise, and Lippman got everybody, thinking in a creative space with his fiction. Yep. So the order lineup went really well. The one fly in our Chardonnay, as Greg got sick, and as the day went on, he got dizzy and he couldn't make it. But that was the only fly in the Chardonnay there, and we got finished about 9:35. I got things cleaned up by 10 p.m. The party started, and it went way too late. Jesus, I didn't know if I was going to make it home.
Yeah, the morning birds were calling when you left. The sun was rising, pretty much.
Yes, it was 5:36 when I called it quits and said, "Look, I gotta go." And I took Doug to his Airbnb and hit the road. And it was a powerful way to spend 24 hours of energy.
Yeah, there was a.
What state was it we talked you through? What state was it we talked you through, Ramon, so you didn't have to go to sleep?
Yeah. Andy helped me to stay alive. Sure.
Oh, I was gonna do a call on the way home, and then I forgot, and I ended up taking Arturo back to his place. He was staying right downtown, man. Beautiful place he was at. But
so, buddy, the videos that you released so far, you've been getting many views?
A lot more than usual.
Or you haven't had? Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, if you look on the geometric view, you can see people are having an interest, and there's only more and more being released. So a lot of people want to see Dan Winters' presentation. And
well, I've seen that. You've already got it up there.
What's that?
You've already got Dan Winters' presentation on, haven't you? I've seen that one. I've seen Dan Winters, Ted Clark.
No, I don't think
I've seen Dan. Oh, I might have seen. No, I'm pretty sure I did. Anyway, I know I did see Dan Winter one at the conference. And I don't think it was on his channel. And Ted Clark's, and what was that? You mentioned the bloke's name before. Yeah. So they're the three.
So I did find Arturo kept asking, has anybody ever mapped the brain waves, the size of the brain waves to the diameters of the planet? And I kept telling him that I think someone else did it. And I kept telling him about the guy. So this morning I'm washing dishes and I put the episode on, and I emailed Hartmut Mueller and I asked him if he did it, and he's like, yeah, I already did it. It's in my video, this video. So I looked on the video, and sure enough, I just posted it here. 19 minutes in, he's talking about the size of the brain waves and the ratios of the brain waves matching up with the circumference and or diameter of the planets directly. So, so there's a connection. So he was right, and there's plenty more information for him to fish. And that was from Hartmut Mueller. That's dude, this guy already mapped it all out, dude. I'm telling you, we got to connect the electric universe to this, the first presenter. Everybody watch it. It fucking blows my mind. It's like my favorite video on the internet now. Now we need to take what he did, tie it directly to Arturo's work, which it's already tied directly to, and tie it to the electric universe and tie it directly to the Doherty set, which it already is. So, and then you pull in Rupert Sheldrake, Dan Winter, and it just amplifies the sound and the of everything that we're already showing. This group of people, it's incredible, because in 2006 is when I first heard of Hartmut Mueller, and I just looked up space-time fractal, and that's what I do. That's what it is the space-time fractal, and it's how waves embed inside of waves, and how we get the reality that we're in. So it's a plus that there's a path, and this guy's totally on it. I'd love for everybody to watch that video. The first one of our performance that I released online for this event, and the video that I posted in the chat. Yeah, dude, it's all right here. It's all electric. It's all right here. It's literally the size of the atoms are in scale with the diameters of the planets, and our brainwaves are. We just need to take this all to the next level, like everybody. That's my my little morning. But yeah, I had a lot of help setting up. For the event. So Bob helped a whole bunch and just flew around and put up the Doherty set images all over. So it took like 5 hours to set up with 3 people, and to tear down. I went and tore it down and packed everything up yesterday. Got it all cleaned up. I think I did it in about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
You did well.
Just a question, Buddy.
Mhm.
My presentations, were they separate or joined?
Your presentation, you got to look on the geometric view to see when you're up. I think I already posted yours. It hasn't premiered yet.
Yeah. But the question I had is, I did 2 presentations. Did you join them together, or were they separate?
I believe 2 separate ones, but I can't remember right off my head.
Because the Millikan one has been posted for upcoming, but Ampere, I was just wondering what the feedback on the presentations were for the various topics that we had. Was there a surprise? Acceptance?
Everyone loved it. Like I said, we had people crying. I cried. I had the audience going. I was shocking the audience members. I think I did a decent job emceeing. Everyone else tells me that I did a good job emceeing, and I got rave reviews about the presentations. People weren't expecting it. Let's just say the guy from the Thunderbolts was like, "Where did you get these guys? Where did you get these people?" I'm like, "I've been telling you about this, Doug. This is my man, Ramon." I'm like, when he went to Ramon's page, he got dizzy, because there's just so much. He's like, "Where do I start?" I'm like, he's like, "Look, this is what he told me." He's like, "Look, you got so much content, buddy. It's not, it's just how do we start? Where do we start?" And he also said, it's this, that's not a problem. That's not a bad problem to have with too much content, because that's good. They're thirsty for content. So Doug, after talking with everybody, I think he's got 3 people in mind that he wants to bring on the Thunderbolts. So fuck yeah. So congratulations.
He can join our little EMC group, buddy. And when we have these marathon discussions, that's when we come up with a lot of these. Like the last one we had, it went in an arc. So it started the year and went way out, and then it came back home.
Yep.
I don't think Doug will hang with us here, but I think that if he ever gets a chance to review our uploads on Rumble, he's going to be pleasantly surprised. But at the same time, the magic of this think tank is there is a slight exclusion to it, but it's mostly that it's just good chemistry, and we've got what they need. They're starving over there, and we've got it. There's an endless content availability on our end,
right.
and Buddy knows tons of people. I know tons of people. It's just they need us more than and Doug. I think Doug now knows that after he spent some good quality time with us in person.
Yeah.
Who exactly is Doug again? What's
Doug
his role?
He's a representative of the Thunderbolts, and I've been talking with him since April 1st, and he's the one who talked me through and helped me become a presenter at the Thunderbolts. So he helps people talk through their stuff and get the information correct and then conveyed to the right people to read it, like to read my manuscript, to read the manuscript or whatever. He passes it off to Wall Thornhill or Andy Hall or Don Scott to read and do any corrections before a presenter presents their presentation for the Thunderbolts. So he's like the in between guy, the go-to guy.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Doug fell in love with Ramon. I could tell they hit it off great.
How many people do you think, if we look at the global position, would be looking at this new paradigm in a serious way for science to move forward? Numbers wise, I'm thinking in the range of 2,500 to 3,000. I'm just wondering whether it's bigger than that or smaller.
People that would take to it.
They moved away from the mainstream orthodoxy and religion of science, and they're wanting to re-examine things in a much more disciplined and experimental viewpoint. I'm just wondering how many people are open enough to be involved in that and not worry about reputation or anything.
I think it would be new viral church that Terrence McKenna was talking about. The people that go to these festivals that are taking drugs need a place to go. They need a church. Like, there's a desperate need here all around the globe, and especially here in Detroit, people have been trying to start churches here and there, something that's like a church. But this idea connects with everything. It's interconnected. It's interdisciplinary. I think that we would be surprised to see how many people are thirsty for the truth, and an alternative, non-mainstream, alt stream. That's why Gaia is so big. And I think that, Arturo wants to take the Doherty set and spread it all throughout the South America and Brazil. And the numbers have been shooting up in Brazil of the Doherty, or of the geometric view, our show. So
yeah, but I was wondering, in terms of the science and developing the paradigm that's closer to what really is out there, how many people do you think are actually involved in rethinking the science and the proper way to approach this process and producing?
Well, you got to think about how many people are involved in the Thunderbolts project, because those people are all involved already. That's whatever number that is. Then a lot of people that are on Ken Wheeler's channel, a lot of people that are on Fractal Lady's channel, Fractal Woman. These are the audience. We're pulling them all together. These are the people that are interested. So I'd say yes. What's that?
People like Dan Winter too.
Yeah, some of the people on Dan Winter's channel, Grant Forskalt. This is a geometry, this is a combination of geometry, electricity, plasma, and the universe all coming together with scalar dynamics, Euler scalar dynamics. Everybody needs to watch Interscalar's channel, dude. Hartmut Mueller. He's a little dry, but he's an amazing German, and he ties all of the electric universe together in Euler's number, and how it fits with the Doherty set is what it is. The fundamental fractal of it is the shape that he shows at the end of his presentation on the one that he did for the geometric view for the 2022 conference. That shape is the wave nested within wave that the Doherty set naturally imbues and embellishes across vast distances, short distances, small distances, quantifiable. Next year we're going to have a sacred geometry festival attached to it to bring in more artists and to bring in more sacred geometry aspects. So as far as audience goes, you got to remember we have the sacred geometry audience, which is huge. And we, with the Doherty set, it's the next evolution of our thinking of the flower of life and the simple sacred geometry that people are passing around now, the Metatron's cube, the simple stagnant type of geometries are about to become dynamic. And we're going to see as our minds open, we're going to start seeing this on t-shirts, and we're going to start seeing people wearing it, and people are going to become more aware of how the geometry connects to other things in the scalar rate of Birkeland currents and how planetary filaments work. And we're going to become cognizant of the science, and we're going to become cognizant of the wearables as we wear it, as we see it. Like the Mandelbrot set became popular, gigantically popular, with clothing and fractals. That became gigantically popular because it's a reality. It's a mathematical reality, and it's describing something. It's describing the hyper reality that we live in. Everything's fractal. The more you look at the new James Webb Telescope images, it looks like they literally used a fractal generator to create these images online.
Yeah, but the question I have is that if mainstream science is going to do a reset into the world of reality as opposed to fantasy where it lives at the moment, I'm just wondering what the groundswell is at the moment in terms of those that are challenging quite seriously their long-held beliefs and how many people are starting to convert. You know, I think we've got past that. Those guys are a bunch of nongs that don't know what they're talking about, the rejections phase, and now there's sort of slowly morphing into, well, our theories don't work, and these guys are actually showing time and time again. So the reality is starting to get to them, and I'm just wondering how long before the flip finally happens. Yeah, we knew that all the way along, and then they lie about it, about how they
Right.
were on from the very beginning.
That's a tough question. You know, I'd say anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 people, I'd say, are actually working on it. But there's probably more than that, because there's people that are trying to build over Unity devices all the time. Work in the president of the University of Science and Philosophy just left, the guy who's been working with Walter Russell's work, and he's starting his own type of free energy type of company as well, which that might garnish a lot of attention. I mean, ultimately, you have the politicians on the very top who would love to have this, you know, so then you have like hundreds of thousands of politicians that are interested in one way or another, probably invested in stuff like this. So it's a bigger audience than we think.
Yeah, well, one of the things in the earlier discussion that we finished is one of the things I was thinking of is for your economy and your power base to actually continue, the people that are coming out of advanced education need to know their stuff. Otherwise, you can't support your technology or your economy properly. And I think it's got to the stage now where people are beginning to realise, those that are trying to make a profit out of all of this, are beginning to realise that the quality of understanding in the people coming out of university is nowhere near high enough. And it's like, for them to continue to have advantage, they're going to have to get serious about changing what's being produced.
I'm actually at a grocery store, but have you guys read the Eric Lerner paper that just came out recently about the James Webb Telescope?
No,
Not yet.
Oh wow, that's a good one. He's going to be speaking somewhere very soon, but because of the images of the James Webb Telescope, to paraphrase it, put it in a nutshell, mainstream Big Bangers are tripping out right now. One guy said he can't sleep at night because the images of what they're seeing really conflicts with the Big Bang, big time. Hot blue young stars being where they shouldn't be, where they thought things were further away, there shouldn't be. Younger, hotter blue stars, there should be yellow and red older stars. And the politics behind it is incredible, to where you can't write anti-Big Bang articles and papers to be published in certain journals, that there should be an open dialogue, debate in the journals, and public debates about the Big Bang within itself. And, you know, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but he talked about the cosmology crisis from about 2018, and that it's just compounding right now.
it's getting. I've got in my hot little hands here, The Big Bang Never Happened, Eric Lerner. My landlord gave me the book. You know, it's got it's secondhand, $6. The previous was $15. I don't know how much the book cost when it was new, but this is a book that's written. When did he publish this particular edition? 1991. So we're talking 31 years ago. And what he's saying in the book at that stage, when you read that, this is the importance of going back and having a look at some of the original papers and going back further, is that the ideas that have been floating around for a long time that the mainstream ignore, it's got to the point where they have to go back and relearn everything. And it's sort of like I was in contact with a guy who runs steampunk physics. I've sent him an email, and I basically said, as far as I'm concerned, someone who's a scientist claiming that some observed result is impossible should be stripped of his academic recognition on the spot and kicked out of his job. For those who refuse to look at evidence, refuse to read papers that have evidence in it, they should suffer the same result. And we should stop all public funding of science. We should stop all company public funding of science and interest group funding of science, like lobby groups, pharmaceuticals and the rest of them. Just kick them all out. Because in the 1800s, the funding was done by the person doing the work. But you didn't get grants to go and do this stuff. I think they just should abolish it. And anybody who suggests that it be put in place, stick them in a jail cell for treason of wasting public monies, taxpayer money, or, you know, customer money or shareholder money. Just go after these buggers, you know, throw them out of their cushy jobs and make them work for a living. And maybe we should start saying, listen, you guys, you need to learn what your mother's taught you. Stop talking with your mouth full. And their mouth is full of manure. That should get them boiling a little bit. But, you know, when I was looking at the steampunk videos, it's quite clear to me that the poor bugger that's there thinks that he can actually change the system, or there is a need to change it, which I agree with. But he's been banging his head against the brick wall for 20 years, and he needs to realise that there are people out there that are trying to change the system. It just takes a while before we get to Sinead's take on cosmology, that eventually the evidence gets to the point where they've got no choice but to change, or, you know, get kicked out of your job. Stop wasting money on LIGO and CERN and all the rest of these incredibly expensive.
You got to take a quote from Bucky. You got to replace the existing system with the new system and make the old system obsolete.
Well, that's what happened.
What we're doing.
That's what happened in the Copernican revolution. It took 100 years for that change to occur.
Yeah.
But today, you've got to take the gravy train away from people. You know, I don't know how you do that, but maybe there's a way of achieving that. But the simple fact is that, you know, I think it's got to a tipping point now, and the people that are coming along, the new people, are going to be just ignoring the stuff that takes forever to figure out and just go for the stuff which is much more simpler and much cleaner produced. But I've been reading books by a bunch of scientist authors in science fiction, and the amazing thing is you go back and read things like the E. Doc Smith's works and pay attention to the ideas that are sitting behind this. And what amazed me is you got E. Smith, who was a PhD chemist, is talking about such a huge range of scientific development. Okay, when it comes to computers and valves and all the rest of it, you know, he's an author from between 1910 to 1930s. So, you know, technology has this big, huge scale to it. But the ideas that he's talking about in there, you think, how much of the future was he really talking about, not realizing it at the time? The same with Asimov with his Foundation series, and then you've got other authors sitting in there that really were what I would call the real well-trained scientists of the issue long ago. But the thing I was going to say to the steampunk physics is that there's so much stuff out there that the only way we can progress forward is a collaborative approach where disciplines share their knowledge between disciplines, and we rely on assistance when it gets a bit sort of loose at the edges for us. So you need a wide range. It's like you're going to go and build a city or a town. Not everybody is going to be able to do every job. And it's unreasonable in today's age to expect that somebody coming out of into a science environment to be, you know, spending 12 years learning all the disciplines. It's just not possible. It's too much. So I think we need a new approach to how we create an ongoing developmental science, which is, plugged in, as it were, where it's more like an object-oriented system of development rather than this, monolithic program that does everything. Everybody's gone quiet.
I'm still in the store. I'm trying to get out of here so I can interact and talk with you guys.
Yeah, I'm
A little loud.
in the middle of cooking real quick here.
So I was just wondering,
I'm glad that
can science go down an object-oriented plug mode type thing where what we do is re-establish a nodal communication mechanism to keep people in the loop so that they don't get lost in their ivory towers of rubbish and stuff. Everybody's gone quiet. Any views on the idea, or is it?
Sorry, I'm cooking right now, and my girlfriend just texted me that she can't taste anything. So, yeah. So she was at the event, but she started getting sick after the event.
That's not good.
Yeah. So, got to tell her to get tested. Get tested. And then we're going to have to call everybody else and be like, hey, man, we hung out the other day. You might want to get tested.
So what do you think of the idea of, like an AI version of science? Like you got people that specialize and then communicate and see where their ideas cross, where something in, say, biology affects electrical behavior, or fractals interact with everything pretty much. So the issue here is that if you're going to become conversant with all the developments, you got to spend so much time getting your head around all the disciplines that you don't really have a hell of a lot of time left to do the things that really interest you. So what we need is a much more accepting view that people who aren't necessarily doing cosmology in detail don't have something useful to add to cosmology, or don't have something interesting to add to medicine or biology or any other field. Because the claim and the reality of science education in university is that everybody has the same basic grounding, and they're supposed to have the same basic approach in pursuing science. So if you've become recognised as a biologist, then you should also carry that recognition in every field that is science related, because the training requires the same discipline. And it might take you a little bit of time to wrap your head around some of the speculations, but if it's written well properly and packaged correctly, so that the understanding is imparted, then anybody should be able to look at anybody's work, regardless of whether it's their field of expertise, and make useful contributions on helping that stuff come out so that it works properly. We don't need science playing the games that affected Velikovsky. He was a proper scientist. He should have been recognised for that, and not dealt with the way he was just because somebody had their personal pet theory that they didn't like being dissed. And we need to also review the work that's been actually done. Does it stand up to the rigor of checking and all the rest of it? Ed Dowdy's observation while he was in NASA shows that the relativity theory that they want everybody to believe in is not true. But the people who want to keep pushing relativity ignore the evidence. And as far as I'm concerned, the definition of a pseudoscience is he who or she who ignores the evidence. If you're going to ignore the evidence, then you're not a scientist at all. You're just, relying on magic to solve your problems. But there was a comment that I saw in a video in the steampunk video, where is it AM or FM? And they were talking about, I forget the exact terms, but basically the M stands for magic, and I forget what the other two initials were, but it's it's worth listening to some of these videos and paying attention to other channels. But I think the best thing that we can do is hook these channels into one place where people can find these guys. It's like, was it Ken Wheeler's video on his water stirrer thing? I think he's the thing he had in his video is not correctly constructed, but I don't think Ken understands what the magnet's really going to do to the water. Because if you're going to run water around in a helical tube around a strong magnet, you're definitely going to get a capacitance effect in the copper. It'll develop an electric charge, and he's going to put it in a plastic coating, so he might surprise himself with a pretty heavy jolt. Because the Thomson machine, without using a magnet, produces a pretty heavy jolt when you just drop a thin stream of water through two copper bands and into a cup. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we haven't really examined properly, and we need to rethink our thinking when it does get examined.
All right. Hey guys, I'm back. So, we still here?
Yeah, we're still here. So the questions I'm asking is, how close do you think we are to a large enough group that can't be ignored by mainstream, so they have to change their approach? So we get away from I'm an expert, you don't know what you're talking about, so go away, and really hit these guys with ignoring the evidence makes you a pseudoscientist, and really lay that on to them.
I think either way, there's going to be tactics of trickery. So whatever move anybody makes, there's a counter move. So I think we're well on the way to describing this very well from many different angles. I think it's going to be the new paradigm shift. It's part of the new paradigm shift. String theory is dead. Big Bang's dead. There's, if people that are interested in things find the electric universe in any capacity, I think it's going to be the next swing, the next big movement. It makes the most sense with our minds, connecting our minds to the planets, to the universe, to the earth, grounding. If you're a gardener, you know that you plant your plants in the ground, not in pots, so they can be connected to the global electric circuit. And yeah, I think it's the next big movement.
Well, we're trying to get derailed science back on the track, I suppose. And we're starting to see that effect occurring in history, in all the disciplines. History is starting to suffer from it. You know, people are interested in the actual original documents, not, you know, massaged into a story by somebody who's got an agenda. And that's pretty much true of all of science, I think, at the moment. I think people have got sick of the agendaitis in everything we're getting all from the media and everywhere else.
All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna eat. Just got a bunch of stuff cooked up, and I got to get my day going here. Robert, about your other video, I forget. I have no idea. You might have to remind me. I might have to put it together. I don't remember if I even put two together.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I know
I
you.
had to
You're
do the
working
same
on
thing.
it.
I had to do the same thing with Ramon. We just had to track down his other video and put it up. But we got plenty of time to put up presenters and stuff. I got to do my couple of more presentations with everybody here to get my virtual ones set.
All right. Well, I was just wondering because I don't have a copy of the. Oh, sorry, I do. I do have a copy of the Ampere one. I downloaded both of them. So if you can't find the Ampere one, I can always mail it to you, I suppose.
Yeah. Or if I haven't already done it already, I mean, I just forgot. I don't remember. I've just been doing so many different things. So
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's just that if it's combined with Millikan, that's all well and good. But yeah, it just wasn't in your upcoming presentations.
yeah, I got like 10 upcoming presentations I still got to put together. So I'm going to be a busy man on top of being a busy man. And I got my Thunderbolts video that I have coming in mid-September. And I got huge festivals that I'm going to be vending at in between. So I gotta continue to write more.
Hunker down.
Yep, hunker down and continue to write more. The more I can do in one day, frees me up for the next day.
I was really interested for Sean to have a presentation on Egyptian mythology at some stage.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. But
That'd
hey
be
guys, I'm gonna roll. So I'll talk to y'all later.
right.
Yeah,
That's
some
good.
stage.
Well, no, you got all that knowledge inside your head.
Yeah.
I'd like
What-
to
what-
understand
What I've been
what's
doing more so lately is focusing more on the not so much the mythology, but the historical content itself. Kind of Gunnar Heinz's work.
You're breaking up on me,
He
Sean.
was part of Cronia for many years. Yeah, I'm sorry, he was a part of Cronia for many years. The Velikovsky group.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because basically what his work is saying is there's three things happening. It's Mesopotamian, Egyptian, and biblical history is an anachronistic chronology. Okay, because essentially what would happen is this: you'd have Egypt spanning back to, like, we'll just say roughly 3000 BCE, and they keep getting attacked over and 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 over again. Somehow through intermediate periods keep coming back, but they never really acquire the technology that other people are using to attack them. Can't find it in the archaeology, but the story says, they keep getting attacked over and over and over and over again. But it seems as though there was one major battle, if you will, at a point in time where there was newer technology brought into Egypt, 10 bronzes, but then that's all you see. The next thing you would see in the archaeology would be Hellenistic era, which looks like the Greeks and the Egyptians were actually on the same squad, if that makes sense.
Well, they were allies at one point.
Yeah.
But then Alexander the Great comes in and just kicks the entire system.
Right.
I did my high school in Australia we have various grades in your final years, and I did 4-unit science, which was basically physics and chemistry. I did 3-unit mathematics, which is one step below the top grade. 3-unit economics, 3-unit ancient history, and bit of art, and I forget what the other subject. I have to look it up. Oh yeah, the English. Yeah, the lowest level of English I could get away with. I wasn't a fan of English. But the thing is that those 3-unit equivalents are equivalent to your first semester in an opening degree in those subject fields. So we did pretty much the ancient history was started with the Greeks, really. We're talking Athens' rise to power and their argument with the Persian Empire and their final collapse, and then getting into the Greco-Roman period where Alexander the Great goes out and conquers the whole of the Middle East pretty much and dies too early. And the Romans come in and pick up all the bits afterwards. So dealing with Ptolemy and things like that. So that's the period that I studied. But I'm always interested in what came before and understand what the stories and the behaviors that were going on, because these things, if you look at the modern world, you see these things are still playing out. So earlier, the discussion we just had with in the last recording was dealing with the rise of the English language and its impact on global culture. But the same, when we look at the ancient world, we see the rise of Egyptian culture and it's failing away, and its replacement by the Akkadians and the Sumerians and the Babylonians and the Persians on the eastern side of things. And then we see the Roman Greek environment on the west. But we hardly ever hear what was happening in India or Asia in general until the Kublai Khan comes along and basically upsets the apple cart by pretty much giving everybody a hard time, particularly the Chinese. But if he hadn't have died at the time he does, what would have happened to Europe if his armies had kept coming westward at that time in history?
Right.
So it's almost like the connections that occur, and a lot of people have been given the Royal Society treatment of history, which has been convoluted to make it look like the Europeans were the first ever to discover anything of value, which is complete bogus rubbish, because they were well and truly outclassed by the cultures around them, and they were coming out of the cesspits of the Dark Ages, and then if it wasn't for the knowledge that was stored in the Islamic world at the time and other cultures, the West would never have recovered in the manner it did.
Right. I mean, just as far as the Egyptian mythology, I mean, it has me sitting here even right now, still scratching my head, because it bottom line is, when you look at the mythology, somehow Isis is Jupiter, right? Which totally conflicts with a lot of the mythological reconstructions that we've read about, especially Talbot's work and Cochrane's work, Cardona's work. You can't lay the mythologies from different cultures on top of each other and they all line up. That we know that already. I've known that before I even started really researching Velikovsky, like 12 years ago, I guess it was now. But it makes me go, I think Ramon mentioned it. You're getting snapshots from different cultures, and it's really trying to arrange these snapshots, because I'm totally lost as to why Isis is Jupiter. How in the hell does that happen in the story where Osiris is dead? So who the hell is Osiris? Cochrane seems to think that Horus and Osiris are one and the same in death, but then that doesn't make sense. Then what planetary body is Osiris and then Horus? Because Horus could be the younger version of Osiris, but still, she's Jupiter. And I'm like, well, that's because Zeus in Greek mythology obviously is a male figure, but somehow in part of the Egyptian lore, it's a female, which makes no
Well,
sense.
what
You know what I'm
happens?
saying?
What happens if it's one of the missing planets? There's 3 planets that have gone walkabout. One we think
Yeah,
is
I think
into
it
the
could.
asteroid belt. What if that's Isis, being the cradle of life, as it were, in that solar system at that time, and it got destroyed?
But
Or
it's
is,
ISIS.
or is that
Right.
not Horus, the other one,
Osiris, the dead king.
Osiris? Is that
Yeah.
Osiris that got blown apart? And Isis
Yeah.
is concubine, tries to put him back together, and
Right.
the issue here is that the information that was secreted into the Library of Alexander would have given us a lot of information, except for the fanatics that came along and said, "Oh, we've got to get rid of all this old history because we now need new control." And 3 separate occasions over a period of about 200 years, they burned everything they could get their hands on. Pretty much,
Right.
there was,
Right.
the records at that time, you have been rewritten by the late Roman Empire in a manner to make them look good, and the truth disappears.
Right. And the people were super obsessed with this stuff. I mean, the Egyptians were super obsessed people with this stuff. I mean, super obsessed. Where it's popping up, and again, it's in coffins and canopic jars. Just
and it's in
wow.
their buildings that they built. You got
In the
the
buildings.
Egyptian, the pyramids in Egypt are all based upon Orion. And when we go to Mesoamerica, they're all based on another star cluster arrangement. This building pyramids of that scale to map the heavens onto the face of the earth. There's something quite serious going on, and nobody's really addressed that issue.
Back to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
There's issues because Ramon brought it up. The planet flipping upside down.
Yeah.
And Velikovsky's, he's the one that brought it up with the Deacon astronomical ceiling of the constellations pretty much being backwards, where Orion and Sirius are backwards, moving in opposite directions. The sun rises in the west, and it's like, well, this doesn't make any sense at all. That's something to think about. Still, I mean, Velikovsky just dropped the bomb on it, and some other researchers have also pointed out, well, yeah, but then we have to figure out why they were drawing things that way. We talked about calendars and calendars changing.
Yeah.
Everybody's rendering of this stuff is a little different, and I still have an issue. And I did a video many years ago, but I pulled it. I have to dig it up because I forget the sources I even used. But it was Greek. I'm not going to say it was Herodotus off the top of my head. But why would any Greek ever go to talk to people, and especially Egyptians it was specifically, and even inquire about the Sahara Desert being green at one point in time and then it being a desert? Well, I don't think that people would remember an event that was supposed to have happened. We'll just go back to the Younger Dryas, 9,000 to 7,000 BCE. Now, no way in around 500, 400 BCE is anybody going to say, hey, what's up with this? Unless it's somehow closer to the current era where it's still in the memories of the people or distant memories of the people, to where they would be like, yeah, there have been some catastrophic events and they have kind of changed the landscape of the planet.
Well,
we have no remembrance of that as far as right now, except for people bringing it up to us. Like, I wasn't a kid saying, hey, you know what, let's go talk to some people about the Eye of Africa and the Reachot crater and the other craters that are right there too, and how this happened. Like, I knew nothing about this stuff. So how could the Greeks even fathom and talk about it unless it was something that was vaguely remembered? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot more to this.
I suspect that if we go back to the 2 ice age points with the interglacial period between them, what was it, 12,000 and 11,000 years ago, that stuff was recorded, and the question is did we get a reasonably high civilization at the end of it? Was it able to continue? But there's a global cooling of 5 degrees Celsius that occurred around 6,500 years BCE. And the question that was asked by the guy is, what was the cause of that 5-degree global temperature drop? Because there's no geological signature of some catastrophic volcanism event or something along those lines. But what we do have is sites dating back to around that period. There are 7 around the world that show high levels of radioactivity, and next to those areas that show high radioactivity, there's the 7 sites where farming, agriculture kicked off, and that's like about 2,500 years prior to the rise of the Mesopotamian and empires of the time.
Right.
And the question is asking is, did a nuclear war happen around 6,500 BCE? And if you go to the Hindu sources, they certainly talk about things that would be equated to a nuclear war of some kind, directed energy weapons and bombs and God knows what else they used.
Yeah.
And they talk about at that time in that story that 7 cities or 7 nations died in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And if that was to occur today, this pretty much the same effect would occur.
Right.
It'd be literally like Judgment Day in the Terminator series type stuff. The ones that survived are going to have a hard time. And within 3 generations, the lifestyle we have today would be mythic god stuff.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it would. It certainly would. Because if looking back then to now, you have a major catastrophe. I see things, at least from my vantage point, that there was definitely, and we're just talking Bronze Age now, there's a global economy. Whether we want to see it that way, once I looked at all the evidence, it looks like as far north as Ireland and Great Britain, Scandinavian culture, which would be the Vikings, and the High Roman. You don't have to. You don't have to. Okay. That there was a global economy at the time, and though it's not written, all the Roman artifacts are popping up in Great Britain and Viking archaeology and Middle Eastern archaeology. Like it looks like it's all going down at the same time. Where it appears as though iron ore is being imported from Northern Europe back down and through into Rome and Greece that way, because they don't have that resource. They don't have arsenic either. There's no arsenic in the Near East to make tin bronze weapons at all. Where are you going to get the arsenic from? There may be a little bit, but from what I've looked at, arsenic is definitely west of Rome for sure. It's not there. It would make sense because of how the Roman archaeology is even popping up today in the UK. I read an article 6, 7, 8 months ago that they're building a high-speed line in the UK, and they come upon an archaeological site, and it has the same what's called fongo, which is dark earth, which was laid down throughout Rome and Constantinople, close into what we call the Near East, if you will. Then on top of that is alluvial fill, which doesn't make sense, but they're finding that material everywhere. Rome was buried under it. Europe was buried. Parts of Europe was buried underneath it. But then here are those Roman artifacts again, like the coins and the millefiori blown glass, and everything's like right there. And it's like, okay, Viking ships, Roman ships being identical. There's a lot there that makes it look like, and I've read this years ago in some like Charles Janenthal's work with the Velikovsky group, that it paints the picture differently than what it's been painted in from historical sources, so to speak. So
yeah, I think
and it looks like it came to an end. Blam, okay, it ends, and then now what do people do? You have to be able to, especially in Europe, Northern Europe, where are you going to get your food from? How are you going to grow food? Well, they're just growing it right on top of the material that was laid down. Like, wow. Excavations show, human bones and animal bones in the ground, and it's like that would be a really tough deal if you were relying on the economy at the time to bring food essentially from the Near East up through Spain and up and around into Northern Europe for trade for the raw materials that were there, that would be devastating. That'd be like right now, our food distribution network just shutting down. How it works,
Yes.
just shuts down completely. What will we do? You know, like, damn.
Yeah, that's what killed off the Roman Empire in the end, is that they had a massive food failure.
Yeah.
And that wiped them out. But the issue I have here is that you've got an economic system at about 3100 BCE that failed completely. So something must have happened, and they think it was a cascade meteor strike from North America across into Europe and into Asia. I know. So you know, something along those lines is going to cause some horrible devastation where people are living.
Right.
And these sorts of events, you know, there was a volcano that was supposed to have gone off in Indonesia about 435 AD, which took out Europe as well. You know, these are massive changes of climatic effect, and they don't have to be very big. They just have to be short, sharp, and just shut things down for a period of a couple of weeks. Like, we're talking about what's the result of taking out electrical production for 2 weeks? The answer is people starving.
Yep.
And dying as a result, and that's only 2 weeks down the track. So, you know, if some event along those lines was to occur in today's world, we wouldn't be talking about a population at one. You know, it'd be a case of how many people in a thousand survive, and the number might be 1 or 2.
Right. I mean, I even do things like, you know, I sit in my backyard. There's about 5 or 6 rabbits that come by, and I'm like, well, if something happened, those 5 or 6 rabbits wouldn't last as very long at all.
No.
You know, there's squirrels that wouldn't last as very long. There are deer, that's only going to last so long. And in this climate, we can't grow vegetables all year round. That's not going to last very long. You know, like, you know, I just think and say, well,
there's
damn.
no redundancy in our systems. If these sort of disasters we're talking about had occurred 100 years ago, there was redundancy in the system. But today, there's none. You know, there's nothing to, you know, we're trying to say, oh, coal-powered power stations are bad ideas, so let's to get rid of them all. You know, well, that's not very clever, because what happens when your new technology don't work? You know, it's all well and good to talk about solar energy is going to be the future, but what happens if your solar energy gets applied?
Right.
It takes time to re-establish that technology, and there's just no redundancy in it at all. You've got government reports from the United States, Australia, Canada, Britain, everywhere else saying, you know, we don't even have a stockpile of transformers that we can just dump into the electric grid to get it going again, and it's 18 months before we get a new one.
Yep. And
18 months is way too long.
It just, they don't have them stockpiled sitting around. The big generators that we use, some of the older electrical plants where they still use coal, that stuff, I think was said that they were manufactured in India, and it would take like 18 months for them to manufacture and deliver.
Well, even steam-powered pumping stations and things like that for water services. You know, all our waters are delivered by electrical pump. And you've got 2 weeks of no water, you're not doing too good. So it just amazes me that the modern world thinks that, you know, tomorrow's going to be sunshiny. And reminds me of all those films like the Crack in the Earth and Meteor and all the rest of it, where the guys come out of their disastrous scenario. And it's the last scene of the film, and there's this chipmunk or squirrel running around. You know, you think, no, that's not how it's going to work, guys. You've missed it. Missed the point of it. Because if you have those sorts of events going, massive climate change, and food production distribution systems are going to be severely impacted. And if we're looking at what's happening right now, it's those distribution systems are being deliberately interfered with by political bullshit. You know, in Canada,
They're being monkeyed with.
the nitrate distribution systems for chronic food, for example. You got United States, Canada, Australia. They're trying to do it in Australia. And in the Ukraine, they got guns and bullets going off. So your major food bowl, production of food that's reliable, all the rest of it has been put under, considerable risk. And it's being done deliberately, and it's being done to an agenda. And the end result of that is countries like Sri Lanka, for example, and it's not the only one, they're starving. It's just crazy.
Yeah, like really. On another note, I'm going to have to eventually sit down and kind of pick Ramon's brain. Okay, so I run right now the Micomar publishing site and Michael Armstrong's If I See You site. I started paying for it a couple years ago to kind of take that burden away from Michael. But the web host is called Arvix. And man, over the last couple months, I've had a lot of problems with Arvix, where the sites go down and I get a 404 not found message, and they don't have a phone number anymore, so I have to email customer service. Nobody gets back to me, and then boom, the site will come back up, the sites will go back down, the sites will come back up, the sites will go back down, go back down, and I'm like, okay, either I have to clone these sites or put them through another web host. Yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't know what to do. I'm kind of ignorant to this lane. Did I see on your site, Ramon, that Wix is who you use? And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is. Help. Like, because I've told Michael that your site, Ramon, is like, it's more of an like an up-to-date type of site. Even Tessa's, it's more up-to-date.
So my business is, I have a business that uses Wix, but the gateway is just a Google site.
Oh, just Google site? Okay. Yeah, because I'm lost right now. I'm like totally lost, and I was getting ticked off because there's a paper written by, his name is Brandon, and I forget his last name. This guy writes a lot of Velikovsky and stuff. I got to try to track him down to see who this guy is. But he uses a link from the 94 symposium, Velikovsky symposium. But if people click on that link as a source, if Micomar Publishing is down and that's the only place it exists, nobody can read the source. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh no. Yeah, but I come across this guy and he has like tons of interesting stuff that we all like and enjoy, where he's reviewing in different parts a lot of the same stuff that we talk about all the time. I forget Brandon Ward is his name. Don't know who the guy is, but it was Gunnar Heinzholm who sent me a link, and the name of the site he posts on is called Hive, Hive, Hive blog. Never heard of it. But nonetheless, that's how I knew that the site was down, and I'm like, well, damn, the site's down and it's up and it's down and it's up. It's down and it's up, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck to do. I'm like, and I'm paying like $150 a year for this. I'm like, don't know what to do.
My temptation, back the entire site up and have it on a local computer, even a CD-ROM.
Because he's
so
old.
that if,
he doesn't even know. Like, he has several computers, and he doesn't even remember which one he saved everything on. And I'm like, oh shit, this isn't good. Like, there's 600 and some odd articles on the If I See You site, and I forget how many on the Micomar Publishing site. But I'm like, that stuff is very valuable, and if it's lost, then it's just lost. It would have to be done all over again, and I'm like, I don't want to have to do this all over again. Most of his articles on his site, the If I See You site, that site, they're like Word documents essentially.
Well, it's
I don't know what
when
to
you
do.
create an archive and you move it.
Yeah,
It's
see,
the
I don't
only.
know how to do that. That's what I'm saying. I have no idea. And my advisor back in college would be like, Sean, come on, man. You're not keeping up with the times here, which I'm not.
Well,
I keep
it's
up with
just
the times more from audio.
your
So,
the website's effectively a directory, so you just log in as the website administrator and you copy the entire site from your root directory and you just store it somewhere. And
okay.
because it can be installed anywhere, you just take the whole thing. But the bigger problem is recovering it and reestablishing it afterwards. And it depends on how the links are done too. So it's time to go and have the chat about I'm going to get someone who's going to archive this so that we can host it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's going to cost money, much more than the hosting is costing.
It seems like this Arvix host is unreliable at times. Obviously, if I'm getting the 404 file not found error message, I'm like, oh no, oh my goodness. And Michael,
Well,
one just doesn't really. And it's a shame too because he's been on calls with Ramon like several years ago, and then he did a call with a friend of mine, and it had to do with the Gospel of John and Thomas of all things. But these guys are getting old, and his head was bobbing around, and he wasn't very prepared for this interview. And we told him, Michael, sometimes it's time to hang the cleats up. To have a call where we're talking is fine, but to go on camera now is it's an issue, especially if people are asking questions where you have to just recall things very quickly.
well,
So I'm trying to do as much as I can to help, but at the same
well,
time, I'm kind of ignorant to this stuff.
I'm in contact with a guy called Evil Cat. He's 96 now. He's still around, but he's had issues with websites, and I've just basically said, the approach I've taken is I'll just go to the website and save every page as a PDF.
Yeah, to do that. Taking time,
And
but I
then
just actually do that.
you got, at least then you've got the original article as it was published and work from there. But of course, there are issues with capturing stuff in PDFs because not everything is necessarily captured. But this is an issue with the electronic storage of material. If someone like even if a Google site if Google decides that we're not going to allow this site to continue anymore, they just delete it. And what are you going to do after that?
Right.
Unless you've got an archive of your material, getting it back up again can be quite difficult.
Yeah.
And
sure.
Google are going to, some of these websites say, we own the content. Because you put it on our site, we own it, and we'll determine what's going to happen. So if you try to rehost it, they claim copyright over you and all the rest of that sort of stuff, which is theft, basically.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why I'm really harsh towards YouTube. They're getting rich off the content produced by other people, and they won't even pay for it.
It looks like Tess took her whole video page down from YouTube. It's gone, and she said she's on Odyssey now. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay.
So the whole thing gone right after the presentation of from the conference. She has 3 videos up, and everything is moved. She's like, "Don't feed the Googler" or something like that. Like, oh wow.
Yeah, well, that's the other issue. It's like I didn't realize that Tessa's website had gone away. Or
the website, the Mythos Decoded is up, but her YouTube channel, she moved it.
Yeah. So that's the issue. That's the issue with all these sorts of things. It becomes very difficult to find this material, and you need some way of connecting it. It's like I had, and Dr. Andrea Aziz, who's done all these Weber electromagnetics and other other Ampere's experiments and all the rest of it. He's in Brazil. He's one of the universities there, and he's got teams of translators turning them into English and Portuguese and other things. And I said to him, I said, you've really got to think about, because he's at the university, it's all hosted on the university equipment. And I said, well, at some stage you're going to retire. What happens to all this information you've published? If it's at the university and the university decides, oh, well, we're not going to waste any more keeping your stuff as is, we'll just delete it. And it's lost, gone. And then, you know, you've got the Library of Alexandria. The Vandals have come in and destroyed everything. So, you know, for some of this stuff, my solution is just to simply copy it down. I'm not selling it, I'm using it for research. And if someone really needs the papers and all the rest of it that were previously available for free, I'll just provide it to them.
Yeah, it's very confusing to me. Something I haven't really.
And it makes life for the people that are doing the sort of research that we're doing on our own resources that much harder. You know, one of the problems I have is that, you know, there's a lot of material I'd like to be able to get my hands on, but, you know, oh, that's going to be $15 US if you buy it through Amazon, and by the time I get it over here in the land down under, it's like 4 times the cost. So it's not, you know, it's not a cheap exercise. I mean, that's a perennial issue for us in Australia. You know, a textbook that costs $10 or $20 in the United States is like $150 in Australia, which is just, you know, let's fleece the customer as much as we possibly can. And I'm sure the author doesn't get any share of the $150, the difference between $20 and the $150 that they're charging.
Right.
So yeah, my statement would be to, you know, if the website comes back on, just get in there as administrator and copy the whole thing down to a computer.
It's back up now. It is definitely back up. So.
Because it's only a matter of time before, if they're having trouble hosting the website, it's just, you know, it's like a hard disk, you know, getting the intermittent hard disk error, you know, time to back up all your data, because, you know, it's just when, not if.
I mean, I tease a lot of DJs about that too. We're in that digital era, and I always ask them, "Do you have any music outside of your computer?" If they say no, I'm like, "Well, you're good job. You don't have any 45s. You have."
Anyway, Sean, I'm going to a bit late my time.
What's that?
It's getting late,
guys. It was a
2:40.
great conversation you guys had, and I'm going to post this episode. It was really awesome to listen to. You guys have a good one, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta go to work anyway, guys.
We'll catch you later, guys. You have a good
Bye,
day.
guys.
Take it
See
easy.
ya.
You too. Have a good night.